Do you have a kid who is between the ages of 8 to 12 years old and is truly fascinated about the world and has a curious mind? Well, then this interview is definitely up your alley. We are so excited to be speaking to Adam El Rafey and his mom, Soha Helfawi. Adam El Rafey is a super social 11-year-old public speaker who is a continuous learner, innovator, and thought leader. He's passionate about reforming the traditional education system and inspiring others to find their voice, and strongly believes that people need to judge youth not by their age, but make decisions based on their ability.
Adam is also one of the youngest TEDx speakers in the world and has spoken at over 90 major conferences, including GITEX, the Global Education Supplies and Solution, and Dubai Future Week. He is also no stranger to media, having been featured in multiple newspapers, TV segments, radio shows, and podcasts. He is an Awe Academy alumni, currently the youngest innovator at the Knowledge Society's Virtual Global Program, and he attends both primary and secondary school.
Without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, Adam. I'm so excited to be interviewing today. For everyone watching, Adam is a TED Talk speaker, and in your speech, Adam, you live by the motto, ability, not age. And you also go into depth about not underestimating children. So tell us where this belief originated from.
Ability, not age, for the people that don't know it, it's basically, and this doesn't have to be applied in like sort of education, it can be applied everywhere into work, jobs, that kind of thing. Ability, not age is where you judge people sort of based on their abilities and capabilities and what they can do versus like what year they're in or like just how old they are in general, right? So yeah, and as for not underestimating children, yeah, sure, children can do a lot, a lot more than adults tend to think. And not only should adults be not underestimating children, children should not be underestimating themselves. They can, they don't have to follow what's been done before. They can carve their own unconventional path,
I think it goes both ways, right? There's one side, parents and adults tend to underestimate children, but then we also underestimate ourselves, and we're too scared to carve our own paths, like you mentioned, and go the unconventional way. But to bounce off of that idea, Adam, you also believe against not putting a minimum age on learning. So how do you think the current education system can be improved?
Well, I have a number of ideas that the education system, can be tweaked. However, I'm going to share my top 5 today just to keep it a little shorter, since I could go on for quite a while. So first of all, ability, not age. I mentioned this earlier, so I'm not going to go in depth into it, but that's definitely a first, Second of all, there needs to be more AR, VR, and XR in education, because I feel like it just makes the entire learning journey so much more immersive. Like, for example, when you're learning about the human body, which do you think you'll remember better? Seeing it pen and paper, or actually viewing the organs in virtual reality, seeing, sort of what everything does, right? Versus, well, you can't really dissect it in real life, can you? So third, there needs to be more project-based learning in education. For example, I joined an accelerator program quite a few months ago called the Knowledge Society, and they've had us work on so many awesome challenges and projects. For example, working with the United Nations, working on something to do with brain-computer interfaces, artificial intelligence, so many awesome things. Number 4 is mindsets versus memorization. So mindsets versus memorization really means that you shouldn't try to like memorize and just regurgitate on the test. It's not about memorization, it's about like your mindset. Sort of like examples of good mindsets are like, for example, you have to have a growth mindset, you have to be like resilient, you have to be not afraid to fail, and and others that I will touch on or later. Um, Last, personalized learning. Personalized learning means sort of adapting to the kid's favorite way of learning. For example, me, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I love doing things. I also like watching videos and all stuff like that, right? And I'm also slightly higher level than my year 6 class, so I should be able to regularly go to the higher level, which luckily I am able to do. But yeah. And in terms of how I am, what do you call, taking like action on this, I'm using my voice and trying to advocate and be an example for what I say.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're definitely proving that, Adam. You mentioned you've been working with all these big organizations like the United Nations. How did that feel?
At first, when the directors told me about it, it was just like, there were quite a few phases to it. The first phase was just shocked, speechless, nothing to say here more than that. The second phase was like, whoa, this is so awesome! Like, this is the best thing ever. And then the third phase is where all the productivity came and said, like, oh gosh, we gotta do a really good job on this. This is the United Nations, guys.
Yeah, the expectations are really high now. But Adam, I have another question. You found your passion for tech at a relatively young age. But on the other hand, there's a lot of students that get discouraged because they have a hard time finding what they're good at. So what advice would you give to youth who are struggling to find their passion?
Well, first of all, a passion is not something that you just wake up with one day. A passion is something that you figure out over time. And don't worry if it doesn't come instantly to you, because you don't need to necessarily have just one fixated passion for the rest of your life. Let curiosity take you wherever the hell it wants to go, right? For example, it can take you to the moon. It can take you to where like someone's never been to before. Mars, outside the solar system, anywhere, into the future. There are so many more examples that I could give, but just to keep it short, I'm gonna leave it there.
I love that. I love that. So to go along with that idea of curiosity, I'm curious how your mind works and how you study because you take on a lot of challenging things, right, Adam? Like you mentioned, you're taking your GSCE board level exams next year. So can you share tips on how you learn a new subject, how you take on a new subject and retain that information and apply it?
As I mentioned before, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so my favorite way of learning is doing practicals, chemistry, mixing together elements, maybe a few explosions here or there, who knows, right? Um, but the way that I really retain that information is my mind tends to link everything together so that I know really the relevance of where things can be applied. And once it's linked, it just stays with me, to be honest.
For me, I know I'm like a visual learner, so I like seeing things out. I like using pictures and diagrams. And I guess you're like a kinesthetic learner. Now, lastly, for my question, Adam, you work with a lot of older kids and you also influence a lot of older kids. Was there ever a time, or can you give us an example on how you made a decision and convinced older kids or even adults to go ahead with your idea?
First of all, I just want to say that I don't necessarily go into the classroom with an intent to influence. Most of the time, I'm just myself. I present good ideas, and sometimes my team, takes them and we carry it forward. But when you're new to working with older kids, I feel like there are three phases, you know? First phase is sort of the proven phase, where you just have to speak up a little bit more and sort of show what you've done. Then after that, once you've proved yourself and people start to realize, there is the whoa phase. Like everyone realizes, dude, this kid is so cool. And literally everyone wants you on their team. Then third, after that, it's the equal phase where you all just kind of treat yourselves as equals, like you're meant to be there.
Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite part? What's your favorite phase?
The whoa phase.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm super sociable, so interacting with that many people at once is just, yes, expert haven.
All right, so I'll pass it on to Anu now.
Well, Adam, I'm so inspired by you and all these things that you're doing. And based on my age, let's shift it slightly to parents. All right. You guys were not born with manuals on how to raise you guys. So parents are trying to figure how to raise kids like yourself and all, and each child is unique. So tell me, what is your philosophy at home and how did your parents raise you?
Well, the way that my parents raised me is that, first of all, we didn't focus on good grades, right? We focused on resilience. Even if you were trying best and didn't do as good as your other classmates, you tried your best, and that's what matters, right? And so we were also very supportive between each other. We have a very, very established support network, which is great. And we just encourage each other, motivate each other, and we're there in times when things might not be as much up as it is down. So we're just there for each other all the time.
Wow. Have you ever gotten a bad grade?
Have I ever gotten a bad grade? Well, I define bad grade, to be honest. There's a number of boundaries that you could consider a bad grade, but it just depends, It depends what you think is a bad grade.
What other learning methods can youth use to be more effective, especially for the future job market?
Well, other learning methods that I use personally, my second favorite method is to, watch videos, right? I feel like videos versus textbooks, I would take a video in a heartbeat, right? And so that it just really helps me retain information, and especially when it comes to sort of the future market, I definitely think that that would become a bit more widespread with the advance of technology over books, sort of, and paper. So yeah.
So from learning, let's move, and we're talking about skills needed for the future job market. In your TED Talk, you actually mentioned that at such a young age, you applied for a game development job, but the criteria was 16 years old and above. So tell me, is there anything that organizations can do to change that whole mindset? Like, how can they be more open to kids like yourself and others who do want to work and who have the ability?
Internships, mentorships. Gosh, internships just really get kids the feel of your company, and if they do that right, then kids will be very loyal to that company because they're at such a young age, and it's an experience that they will have most likely engraved in their memory, And second, there could be projects, the companies could create real world problems that they face and have students solve them, right? And I actually talked quite a bit about this in my talk, Recruit Me, I'm 9 at JITEC. So if you wanna check that out, then yeah, it's on my LinkedIn or Instagram, either one.
Oh, perfect. Wow. And if you can just give an overview when you talked about Recruit Me at JITEC for a 9-year-old, uh, is there a particular process or how, you mentioned they can give projects. They can is it through the education system that they can give projects? And is it through the education system that they can also assign mentors and sponsors? Is that what you're hoping for?
Well, yeah, actually, that is definitely one way to like, get to the kids, and I think that's the way that probably is the best way to get to kids, right? And so if they imply it through the education system, then all of a sudden school will become like really fun, and they become, you know, it's a bit out of the blue and not the norm, and it'll be exciting because it's something new.
Yeah, purposeful education, right? Rather than just education for the sake of education, but purposeful education, which is phenomenal that you're thinking about this right now. And you're a huge advocate, Adam. I really, we both really appreciate talking to you. I'm so inspired by you and the way you speak and the way and all those ideas that you have in you. So thank you so much, Adam, for joining us. I will be talking to your mom right now. Hey, Soha.
Hi,
Wow.
Andrew.
I'm going to be thinking about all the things that Adam just told me. It fills my heart and it inspires me. I wish more kids like Adam would come out and inspire a lot of kids, because that is definitely needed, right? Age is still something that is in a lot of children and even 20-year-olds mindset. Oh, I'm too young for this. And then you get to 60 and you're like, I'm too old for this. And let's just wipe that out. And I think more and more kids like Adam should come out and say, hey, it's ability. That's it. Let's just go with it and let's see how the world goes. And so, Soha, you must obviously, I am so proud of him. So you're obviously very proud of him as well. Soha, can you perhaps start off by sharing, the world is not equal. It's not easy sometimes to raise children. Can you share some of the challenges you faced in ensuring that Adam got these opportunities?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me with you guys, and good job, buddy. And well done, Tanuja, spoken like an expert interviewer. That was brilliant. Just from my side, like in terms of challenges, I guess the first challenge is age. So when you have like a kid who's super curious or who's advanced, there are all these limitations, there's all this automatic red tape, and it's just, they won't even consider, having my 4-year-old join a robotics class wasn't easy because, they're like 4, like he's under the table. Like, what do you mean he's going to join, the robotics class and code with these groups? So it takes a lot of, I guess for parents, you need to be an advocate. You need to be a huge advocate. You need to kind of believe in your children, and all parents are proud. I think all kids are incredible, but your child sometimes, and you need to be kind of objective as well with what they can do versus my child is the best. We don't advocate that at home anyway. I never say my child is the best, but you need to really strongly advocate for them to get their foot in the door. And once you get their foot in the door, then they have other challenges. So for example, I'll take Adam's example when he was 4 and someone listened, for robotics, there's only so much I can do at home. I did resign and I'm home, and I was home full time because I loved being with him and his sister Layla. We were working, creativity abound, like my house was a wreck. We're always up to something. I'm always following their curiosity. But then there's a limit to, I don't know that much about robotics. And I thought, if you go in a different environment, I wanted him to have that experience. And I wanted him to be able to, learn from experts. So of course, no is, what do you mean he's 4? Are you joking? I'm like, no, I'm not. But how about test him? Like, I'm trying to coach both my kids not to see things as roadblocks, see them more as speed bumps. Like, how do I get over it? How do I go around it? How do I find a way? So finally, yes, they test him usually and he passes. So they allow him. Then comes the next phase of, you know, parents saying, wait a minute, I paid for a professional robotics program. What's this kid doing here? So then you have to teach your kids resilience, like, you know, just, it's okay, you know, different is good, and just speak up and be yourself and, you know, get through. And I think that's something that they're gonna carry for the rest of their life to be successful.
Wow, so it requires a lot of advocacy from parents, and that means actually talking to them and convincing organizations to do tests, perhaps. I mean, that's the main way, I guess, main gateway to get into these organizations, in your case, robotics. But has there ever been a situation where you've had a hard no, gotten a hard no, no, you can't?
Oh, there've been loads. There've been tons and tons and tons, and that's okay. And I mean, when I say advocate, I was only advocating for them when they were younger. My whole theory of, you know, raising them is they advocate for themselves. So as soon as early as they can, they start advocating for themselves. I think when Adam was about 6 or 7, I started stepping back. Like, I'd be there, but I'm like, you explain why you'd like to be here and why they should hire you, because, or they should accept you. And now I don't advocate at all. Like, he will have to, like, you know, the Knowledge Society doesn't accept anyone under 14 typically for this virtual global program. And he said, Mom, I really want to do it. I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do about it? Like, well, I don't know. I'm like, have a think. Like, what resources do you have access to? What can you do about it? So he found, you know, the email of the founder, and he wrote him an email. He said, I'm gonna write an email, and I want to be considered equally. Like, he's not, the whole thing about AbilityNotAge is you also don't want favoritism based on your age. You don't want to be treated differently. So Adam will always say, fair and square, test me fair and square, like you test everybody else, or, you know, consider me like you consider everybody else. He went through a very rigorous process that they have, and he made it, and he got selected. So yeah, it's harder for schools, I think, as well, because there's a lot of kind of red tape for schools. So that took a while to get him in the higher grades as well.
Right. Yes. And we face that here in Canada as well. And I think all over, there's always that set education system. You have to go from 1 grade. There are some countries which are open to moving kids 2 grades up or 3 grades. Well, I've heard of 2 or 1 grade up. So yes, I can definitely understand the red tape, but kudos to you, Soha, and kudos to you and kudos to Adam for being an advocate for himself, which is exactly what we want our kids to be, right? Like, please go out there, be your own advocate, speak for yourself, because parents can only do so much, right? We definitely want to see our kids win, but or at least do something, definitely do something well in their lives. But by advocating for themselves, they're going to just take on the world.
Exactly. And like Adam alluded to earlier, we don't ever hand our kids anything on a silver platter. Like, everything they work on, they earn, and they, you know, we do celebrate, like you said, resilience versus success. And I've always told them, if you succeed the first time, fantastic, but maybe it was too easy for you. Like, but if you fail like 10 times, you pick yourself up and you try again, or you try differently, or you think smarter, and then you succeed, I'll celebrate that.
Wow. Wow. So Soha, I mean, when I talked to Adam, when I found out about Adam, in my head, I'm thinking, wow, this kid is a gifted kid. And I'm sure a lot of people also thinking that, you know, Adam's capable of working with people who are 4 years older to him, because it's said in society that if a kid goes outside of the norm, then they're a gifted child. When I talked to you, Soha, you mentioned that you don't like labels and that you don't want to call him a gifted kid. Can you maybe advise to society why you're not in favor of labels?
Well, I'm not in favor of labels, period. So even though gifted, I guess they need to put him in a bucket, because yeah, he does actually go up to 8 years higher. So I get that. But even if it's gifted, it's meant to be a good label. In my books, it's still a label. And yeah, I feel kind of strongly about that, because number one, we're raising our kids to be super humble, super empathetic, kind human beings. That's like top of our list. And by saying someone's gifted, automatically you've kind of put them on a pedestal, or it seems like, you know, they're in a league of their own or a different class. And that's not how we're raising our kids. And also that alienates others. So when you say, you know, for example, oh, well, because Adam's gifted, of course he can do that. that doesn't apply to my kids, or that doesn't apply to me. And we don't want that, because we believe that everybody has a gift. And yes, Adam is special, but so are all of the other kids. Everybody's special. They just have to find their gift and go down that path. So that's a big part of it. And I think another thing as well, which affects the label gifted kids, is it comes with a connotation that everything comes easy to you just because you're gifted. And that is far from the truth. So I don't think I've ever met a more hardworking little person than Adam. Well, and his sister Layla, honestly, she's incredible as well. But they're super hardworking, and to take that away from them, or take it away from Adam because he's gifted, must come easy, is not true. I mean, just this week alone, I was telling him, I'm like, Adam, like, you have a huge workload this week that would make any adult crumble. Like, I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah. He has his primary finals, his secondary finals, his Knowledge Society showcase final from like the 10-month accelerator program, and he has 2 podcasts. And he finds time to play with his friends. He takes it with a smile, and he's like, "Mom, don't worry, I got this. I can do it." So he goes to his whiteboard, plans it out, the time blocks. And he's like, "See, it'll work." I'm like, okay. But yeah, so it doesn't come easy to him. He works super hard to get where he is, and I'm very proud of you, buddy.
We are all very proud of you. I can't stress this enough. Let's switch. My final question is to switch over to yourself and the decisions that you've made. So you talked about Layla, who I understand is a competitive gymnast. The amount of my daughter is a competitive dancer, and I know the amount of work that goes into that as well. And Adam, being the amazing person that he is, and as you mentioned, doing all sorts of stuff. How did you enable both their paths? So as a parent, having one child and enabling one child's path is already a lot of work. Now you've got 2 children doing in competitive sports, or in competitive academics, however you might call it. How did you enable their path, and how did you make that conscious decision to put your career on hold?
Well, the career on hold, well, first of all, I went to my company because it's funny, I was very successful at what I was doing. And I always joke that managing a $60 million company was actually easier than managing these 2. But yeah, so I did. I mean, initially when I tried to resign, the company refused, and they said, we'll give you a year sabbatical, which hadn't been done in our company in the Middle East yet. And I said, okay. And then I couldn't, I found my passion to be coaching and enabling kids. It just, I shocked everybody because I was very much a workaholic, very much a career woman, very much, board of directors, traveling around. And the moment I had my kids, I'm like, I can't imagine leaving them. Like I found another true passion. So I decided to follow that. So that was an easy decision for me. And I'm very fortunate that I was able, to do that. And I was able to quit and stay home with them. And in terms of, how to enable kids, you have no idea. Layla trains 26 hours a week. So, and, we used to travel like crazy. And so, they have very hectic schedules. I think my best advice would be have the kids lead. So you literally have to follow the kids' passions, and you have to try your hardest. And this is probably the hardest part, not to influence their path. You can guide them, you can advise them, you can, help them, or, provide resources, but not influence their paths. And I think the hardest thing for me is to give them enough space to fail and to stand back. It's so easy for me to rush to want to pick them up and help them up, but then I have to restrain and say, they're not learning. If, I'm just gonna, obviously not in harm's way or anything, but we'll be there to support, we'll be there to guide, but they have to create their own path. So Layla, for example, now being a competitive gymnast, she started off the first 2 years of her gymnastics career, she came dead last. 2 years. And she got up, I'm going to work harder. She got up, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work smarter. What else can I do? And she started figuring it out. She's now number 6, the last time before COVID in the UK for the National Development Plan finals, she came 6th. So yeah, she's won like 30 different medals now and stuff she hangs in her wall, but she got there through grit. And I think that's huge.
Wow. And can I just touch upon that resilience factor? How, as a parent, is it a sit down conversation? When you talk about Layla and she coming last, that hits a lot of kids quite personally, especially when they love the sport or when they love academics like Adam. It's just natural, I guess, for them. It hits hard. So as a parent, what is it? Is it a sit down conversation, or is it, what else do you do to?
Actually, I'm glad you asked that question. The way we've approached it is we have them focus on themselves, not focus on anyone else. So it's, have you improved? Not, this is where I need to be. Great. Like, have that in the back of your mind. This is where you need to be, but have you improved? Like, from one competition to another, even if you got a 0.1, in gymnastics, even if it's a 0.1 increase, you improved. Like, you did something better, and have your own little goals. So don't say, I'm going to be first straight away. What do you want to improve? What do you like? So we're teaching them self-reflect. Sit down, say, this is where I want to be. This is how I can get there. What small steps can you take? Like small victories that you can start being proud of yourself, because then their confidence grows. And once they start, tackling things and, marking them as done and moving on, or like improving little by little, then they're proud. So as Adam said before, just be you, like be authentically yourself and keep improving for your own benefit. Like, don't wait for others to give you a pat in the back. So we try not to do that. You should be internally motivated and kind of internally proud of yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely does. Having that sit down conversation and working through the steps of how to move forward and just, I don't want to say not give up, but in a sense, just you found something that you really like. Here are a few steps to just keep moving forward, and small steps and to-do lists and checklists. Great stuff, Soha.
But you can also brainstorm with them, by the way, because sometimes you can't keep doing the exact same thing every time. And if it doesn't work, maybe that's not the right path. So it's also a matter of, you can't keep banging your head against the wall. If this is what you really want, find out why you really want it. What really drives you? Is this the only way to get there? Like, what other path can you take? So I think, and that's where we come in with our experience and our resources and, kind of helping them branch out and, expand their mind, I guess.
Wow. Here in Canada, it's morning time, and I love inspiration to come in the morning. And this has been phenomenal, just talking to both you, Soha, and Adam, of course. From the time you just started talking in this interview, my my mind has been at such a great place, and thank you for that. So Adam, how can people reach out to you if they are interested in reaching out to you for future conversations?
Well, I have a Instagram and a LinkedIn, so check me out there. And you just drop me a message, and if you want to chat, like, sure. It might have to be past this week or a couple of weeks, but yeah.
I'm sure you'll find a way to fit them in if it's around your values. Thank you so much for your time, Adam. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Soha, for your time as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having me.